Hi, welcome to How to Beat Movies, and in this video, I will tell you the story of this movie called Mirrors, released in 2008. The movie begins with a security guard running away. He seems to be chased by something. Suddenly, as he faces a mirror, we see that the security guard's reflection seems to come to life. The image in the reflection slits his throat, and the same happens to the man, who dies immediately. Next, we meet Ben Carson. He is a former police officer who was suspended from the force for accidentally killing another officer. Additionally, Carson had issues with alcohol, which led to the separation from his wife. Far from his family and his job, he now tries to rebuild his life. The first step is getting a job as a night security guard at the Mayflower Mall. A recent fire had occurred at the mall, leaving only rubble behind. The other man who worked as a security guard at the mall is Lorenzen Cepelli, who explains to Ben what the job would be like. However, right from the start, Carson sees strange things there. He sees handprints on the mirror, doors opening by themselves, and so on. Ben, who is living with his sister Angela, tells her what he saw on the first day of work. But since he was going through a lot, Angela thinks it's just the result of stress. Even Ben had doubts about whether what he saw was real or a hallucination. Nevertheless, the strange events at the mall didn't stop, and on another night, Carson continued to witness strange phenomena, including one where he felt like his body was on fire, but it was all just an illusion. After that, he found a wallet on the ground belonging to the security guard we saw die at the beginning of the movie. Among the things in the wallet, there was a note that said, "Esseker." Trying to understand more about the mall, the protagonist goes to talk to his wife, Amy Carson, who works at the hospital. He knew that the former security guard of Mayflower Mall had died. So, Ben tries to find out the cause of the man's death. And he only discovers what we already saw, that the guy cut his own throat with a piece of glass. Ben's sister becomes the next victim of the mirror. Her reflection comes to life and breaks her own jaw, providing a horrific death. Ben discovers when he gets home that his sister has died. Knowing that this was done by the mirror, he returns to the mall to destroy the evil object. However, throwing objects or even shooting at the mirror has no effect. This makes me think that it would be a good way for Ben Carson to prove that he was telling the truth about the mirror, because nobody believed him. Everyone thought he was crazy. But if he filmed it or showed someone that the mirror was unbreakable, he could prove his theory. In any case, when Carson asks the mirror what it wants, we see that same word forming again in the mirror, Esseker. The protagonist once again investigates the mall's past. Through this, he discovers several other deaths related to the Mayflower Mall. They were guards who worked there in the past and killed people, including members of their own families, and blamed the mirror for it. One of these men, who was also the one who set fire to the mall, had been institutionalized shortly before his death. The man had been accused of killing his family, and Ben goes to the place where he was institutionalized. There, he sees a recording in which the man gives his testimony. He said it was the mirror that killed his wife and children. So, he decided to destroy the object, using fire, and ended up burning the Mayflower Mall to the ground. The curious thing is that the man said the mirror was talking to him about Esseker, but the security guard didn't know what that meant. Carson realizes that everything that man went through is what he is experiencing now. He understands that he needs to do something quickly, or his wife and children will also be killed by the mirror. That's why he rushes to his wife's house and decides to remove all the mirrors or reflective objects from the property. Carson understood that the evil used mirrors as conduits for its wicked deeds, so if there were no such objects around his family, they would be safe. At least until he figured out what the evil entity wanted from him. When he arrives at Amy's house, removing the mirrors and everything else, Carson looks like a madman. And to prove to Amy what was happening, he shoots at a random mirror, expecting the object to return to normal shortly after. It would be proof that he was telling the truth. But when he shoots, nothing strange happens. To me, it doesn't make sense for him to think that any random mirror wouldn't break. It would be better to take Amy to the Mayflower Mall and shoot at the mirror there, right? But anyway, after that whole scene, the protagonist appears even more out of touch with reality. And then he simply leaves. But Ben doesn't give up his search for the truth, so he returns to the mall. And this time, he finds a hidden room with a mirrored bedroom. His reflection in that place behaves in a strange way, proving that it is not a normal place. Later, Ben meets an old police friend, whom he had asked for help in deciphering the name Esseker. His friend ended up discovering about a certain Anna Esseker, who was a patient at a psychiatric institution. However, she died at the age of 12. All of this happened in 1952. Now, the strangest thing is that not only Anna, but several other patients at the sanatorium died on the same day, under bizarre circumstances. The doctor who took care of her was arrested and died shortly after by cutting his own wrists with shards of glass. Furthermore, reading the files about Anna Esseker, Ben discovers that she was diagnosed with schizophrenia. But there was something even more intriguing. The protagonist realizes that one of the documents stated that Anna was discharged one day before the tragedy that occurred at the Psychiatric Institute. In other words, the 12-year-old girl could still be alive and had turned into an old woman now. And she could be the answer to solving this mystery. Meanwhile, Amy has real proof that her husband was not crazy. This happens when she witnesses something inexplicable. Amy sees her son talking to himself, and when the little boy steps away from the mirror, his reflection remains there, as if it exists on its own. That disturbing entity mimicking the boy is the confirmation that Ben was telling the truth. Amy then calls her husband and asks for his help. Together, they get rid of all the mirrors in the house and any other object that can create a reflection. And after all that, Ben goes out in order to find Anna Esseker, the woman who could put an end to these horrible events. The protagonist first encounters a relative of Esseker, her brother. The man tells him Anna's story. She was a little girl who acted in an insane manner. It seemed like she was possessed by some kind of entity. But neither doctors nor even priests knew what to do to cure her. And then a man named Dr. Kane appeared, believing he could help the little girl. He took Anna to the St. Matthew's Psychiatric Institution and treated her there. And we know how that turned out. This psychiatric institution, called St. Matthew's, was the place where the Mayflower Mall was later built. Ben pressures the man to tell him where Anna was. The man reveals that his sister, after returning home, was sent to a convent of nuns, where she still lives to this day. Ben goes to the place, and there he gets to meet Anna. And she personally tells him what happened at the psychiatric institution. Dr. Kane had a treatment method that involved exposing the sick person to their fears until the individual could overcome them. In Anna's case, the root of her illness was mirrors. Therefore, Dr. Kane placed her in a room surrounded by them. Anna says that whatever was inside her entered the mirror that day and has been there ever since. That entity killed several people who worked in that place. And now, what lived in the mirror wanted her to return to possess her once again. For years, the guards were tormented by the evil object. The entity provided clues for the guards to bring Esseker back. And when the guards failed or ignored the signs, the mirror would kill their family members. Knowing all of this, Ben Carson asks the nun to go with him to the mall, because it would be the only way to save his family. Anna, however, refuses to do so. Ben finds himself in an impossible situation, and then he decides to kidnap the nun and forcefully take her with him. And he had little time, less than 24 hours. I'll push the references to the limit, guys. As we can see, the mirror had used its evil influence to attack Amy and their children. Amy's son, Michael, was being manipulated by the mirror. At one point, Amy's daughter is nearly killed, but the girl's mother saves her at the last moment. After placing her daughter in a safe place, Amy goes after Michael. Meanwhile, Ben places Anna Esseker in the mirrored room. The nun keeps her eyes closed the entire time, and when she opens them, things are going to get ugly. When Amy finds Michael, the boy is pulled by a sinister force. She tries in every way to bring him back, but nothing really works. Finally, when Anna opens her eyes, the demon in the mirror possesses her body, finally achieving its goal. And at that very moment, Michael is allowed to return to his mother. Carson's family is safe, but he is not yet. He is still inside the Mayflower Mall, and he encounters the malevolent entity from the mirror, and they fight. Ben only manages to stop the monster when he sets it on fire. The entire building starts to collapse, and Ben runs towards the exit. And suddenly, we see debris falling on our hero. Sometime later, Ben emerges outside. He sees firefighters, police officers, and many others. But no one seems to see him. Furthermore, the letters are inverted, like the effect we notice when we see something written reflected in a mirror. then continues walking through the city, and when he encounters a mirror, he also does not see his reflection. In other words, in the end, he died. I didn't understand why this guy got into a fight with the demon in the mirror, honestly. I would have left Anna Esseker alone and bolted. But Jack Bauer never runs away, right, dude? Okay, I've had it with these 24 hours jokes, and I'm sure you guys also did. Well guys, that's it for this video. See you in the next one, and bye!